Hey, I'm Connie,
And I'm Noelle.
and we are product managers on the Data Factory team. We're super excited to be back for our fifth episode for our podcast series, The Data Integration Station. Whether you're a seasoned Data Factory enthusiast or a newcomer to Microsoft Fabric eager to explore fresh content, we promise to teach you something new every month.
This month on our podcast, we're hosting a very special edition for FabCon EU, FabCon Europe 2025, happening in Vienna this week. The Data Factory team has a bunch of exciting new features that just launched, and we're super excited to share the latest updates with you in our episode.
As you may know, the Fabric Community Conference is happening right now in Vienna, and the Data Factory team has got some exciting releases to share with you. This is a glance at some of our features that just came out, and we've got a series of demo videos to share with you on how you can utilize our latest updates in your data workflows.
Performance is not only about refresh. It's about how quickly you, the author, can build and iterate. That's where design time performance comes in. One of the most common parts of authoring Dataflow Gen2 is the data preview. Every time you add or apply a new step, you want to see how it affects your data. But those previews can be slow. In this example, almost 18 seconds to load. That slows down iteration and makes it harder to refine your transformations quickly. So here's where enable only and preview changes the game. I'll go into my source step, and instead of pulling in thousands of files from storage, I'll filter down to just a small subset that I actually want to use. I'll right-click this new feature step and set the enable only and preview. Notice the banner at the top confirming it's active. Now, when I refresh the preview, look at that, less than 3 seconds instead of 18. This means you can move step by step with instant feedback, making design time authoring dramatically faster. That's feedback that we've heard directly from you, and we acted on it. Now, let's look at execution performance. Again, directly from your feedback, you told us refreshes needed to be faster and cheaper. We've benchmarked Dataflow Gen2 using the New York City taxicab dataset. First with a single year of data and then across multiple years. Even at baseline, Dataflow Gen2 is already cheaper than before. But here's where things really improve. With the .NET Core Modern Query Evaluator. I'm going to kick off a runtime benchmark on both sides. Now watch closely. The old Dataflow on the left is chugging along, and you can see the timer going up. Meanwhile, on the right, the new Dataflow Gen2 with the .NET Core Evaluator is already wrapping up. In the single year and multi-year benchmark, we saw about 40 to 50% reduction in run duration. And since runtime and cost are directly tied together, that's 40 to 50% lower cost for the exact same workload, sometimes even more with the new tiered pricing model, which we'll get through later. So just by switching to the Modern Query Evaluator, you're seeing big gains in both speed and efficiency. But hey, we don't stop there. You also told us large refreshes needed to scale better. Let's look at what happens when we add partitioning and parallelism on top of the new evaluator. Here's the same dataset refresh again, side by side. On the left, the older engine runs steps sequentially. On the right, the Modern Query Evaluator plus partitioning and parallelized execution, multiple transformations run at the same time. Now let's watch the difference again. The left data flow moves step by step, while the right data flow finishes dramatically faster. This is what happens when you combine the Modern Evaluator parallelism, faster execution, lower costs, and better scalability for bigger workloads.
A couple of months ago, I ended up creating an amazing data flow. Is it one that you're seeing on screen right now? I'm super proud of it. But now that I'm coming back to it today, I'm having a difficult time trying to understand what it did. But good enough, I have Copilot to actually save me in this scenario. With Copilot, I can simply right-click one of those queries. So let's just say that I want to right-click the compare S to M, and I can click on this and explain this query N3 so that Copilot can explain what this specific query does. It's going to be working on it, and it's going to give me a summary of all the steps that I have in this particular query. If I look at the query settings, I do see that they actually match. So source, expanded, filter rows, and remove columns. All of them with a description. However, in some cases, perhaps I have a really complicated logic in just one of those steps, and I just want to figure out what that particular step is doing. So in those cases, I can just do a right click on the particular step and just do explain this step. And Power Query will explain just what this particular step is doing. In this case, it's just going to be the filter rows. And it's going to tell me that here, filter rows is doing only those where the count column is null. And this is great. And every time that I need help from Copilot, I know that it's going to be there to explain what this data flow is doing for me. We're thrilled to announce the general availability of Parameterized Dataflow Gen2 using the public parameters mode in Microsoft Fabric. This powerful feature enables dynamic and flexible data flow refreshes by allowing parameter values to be passed externally. You can use the Fabric REST API or native Fabric experiences without ever modifying the data flow itself. What you see on screen right now is just an example of that scenario. I have a Dataflow Gen2 in front of me that uses parameters, and those parameters are effectively three. So I have a region, a start date, and an end date. They do magic, or basically they implement some logic and filters across all of my queries. And what is more important is that I'm using simple values just to create a data flow, but the values that I want to use for execution will be passed through a different mean. So the one thing that I have to do first is just make sure that this public parameters mode is enabled. So I can go into the options, click on parameters, make sure that this is enabled, and click OK and go back to my data flow. And the second thing that I can do, and this is just to triple check, is if my parameters are set are required or not. So in my case, the end date and start date, which I'm going to be passing as required, are both set as required. But the one set as region, I do not need this one to actually be set as required. So if I click on OK, the next step is just to simply save my data flow. So for this case, I'm just going to go into the data flow group and save my data flow. Now comes the fun part. I'm going to go into a pipeline. In this case, I already have one created. I've named this parameters pipeline. And what I want to do is simply go into the data flow activity and pick the data flow that I just created. I can go into the settings of this activity, select the workspace where this is at, which is my workspace, and then select the data flow. The data flow is called my best parameters. And you're going to notice something new quite fast. When you expand the data flow parameter section, instead of being a free form where you can input each and every one of those parameter values, this is automatically populated based on the information that the data flow has. So I already have all three parameters and even can tell with just this little asterisk if the parameter is optional or required. For optional parameters, I can simply just remove this parameter and not pass it for what I need. And then for the other section of the values, I'm actually seeing the default values that my data flow has. So I can use them as a starting point. If I would like to change this, even on the datetime type, I can actually select this from my date picker. So this is quite simple. All I need to do now is just make sure that I pass the correct values and then evaluate this pipeline. Just run it. I've already done this. And if I go back to my data flow and I simply select the option to see the recent runs, so I can see what was passed, I can see that there was a successful run. So this is an on-demand request. And I can see what are the values of the parameters that were passed. So in this case, for region, I passed Eastern, start date, this was the start of 1997, and then the end date, the end of 1997. And I can see all of this information quite fast and quite simple. And this is the enhanced experience that we have in Dataflow Gen2 and the data flow activity inside of pipeline. Let's look at how we can integrate a variable library inside of a Dataflow Gen2. What we're looking at the moment is a simple data flow that connects to a lakehouse, does some transformations, and then loads data to the same lakehouse. So what's inside of this lakehouse? Or what do we want to connect to? So we're using a lakehouse that contains the New York City taxi data, where each of the table contains daily data. I have data for the year 2018 all the way down to the year 2022. In my data flow, I'm connecting specifically to the data from the year 2017. What I would like to do is make the references that I have in my data flow, such as the workspace ID, the lakehouse ID, and the actual name of the table that I'm connecting to be fully dynamic. before I can do any changes to my data flow, I have to create my library. I've done so already, and I created 3 variables. I have the workspace ID, the lakehouse ID, and the table name. So I have them all set up. Now I can go back to my data flow and make the modifications that I need to. The first one is to change the value or overwrite that value with something that can be seen by Power Query or by data flow as a variable library. So I'm going to be using this specific example, which is just the workspace ID, and I'm going to replace this part, which is a string, to use the variable.value or default function, which is going to take an identifier. In this case, it's going to be the identifier that we use to call to variable libraries and get that specific variable. And then we're going to pass a default. In this case, it's just going to be the same value that I had before. Now, I can change this and click enter, and it's still going to work. I'm going to be able to see everything that's simply working here. It's using the default to render everything. I can also change everything and make sure that I have all the references to the variables that I have. So I have the workspace ID, I have the lakehouse ID, and I have the table name. I'm going to go ahead and click save and run so I can save this data flow, invoke it with the correct values, and see how it actually creates the new table. I can look now at the lakehouse, and I can see that a new table with the name output was created, which shows the data, for 2017. So how can I make this change? I wanted to actually look at the data from 2020 now. To make that happen, all I have to do is just change the value that I have for that specific variable. So in this case, I'm going to change the table name to just be 2020, save it, wait until it saves, and then run the data flow again. It's going to pick that value up, overwrite the values that I have in that table, and they should match the values that I have for 2020. So I just ran or just triggered the run for the data flow. We just have to wait and then see what the data holds now in the table. So it is showing as succeeded. So I can go back to my lakehouse and see what data it holds now. So let's go back to this table, make sure that we can refresh it. So click on refresh, and let's look at the table and what data it holds. Now we can look at the data, and it actually has data for 2020. And this is how you can integrate a variable library inside of a Dataflow Gen2 with CI/CD. I have a Dataflow Gen2 with Copilot enabled. I'm going to be using Copilot to help me create a new custom column. In this case, I have this table, and what I'm trying to create is a column that will create a discount value. This discount value is going to be based on the values that I have on category, quantity, and total order, and some specific if conditions that I have. So that conditional column could have been created with a conditional column, but since I have something that is a bit more complex, perhaps I would like to use Copilot to help me create it. To do that, I can go in the custom column dialog, and I have this input box now, which leverages Copilot. So I can just pass whatever prompt I like, or just describe whatever I need. In this case, I already have that prompt, and it's going to tell me that if the total order is more than 2,000 and the category is equals to B, then provide a discount of 10%. If the total is more than 200 and the category is A, then provide a discount of 25%, but only if the quantity is more than 10. Otherwise, just provide a 10% discount. I can pass this prompt, and Copilot will create not only the formula for me, but also the new column name and the correct data type based on the information on the prompt. And this is how it looks like. Now, I do not need to really understand what's happening here. What I can do is that I can just click on OK and go to the data preview of this particular effort. And if I see that it does make sense to me on this discount in total, then that's valid for me. And in this particular case, I've actually validated that these values do work for me. And this is Copilot inside of the custom column.
With Dataflow Gen2, we allow you to write to multiple kinds of data destinations. This FabCon, we are announcing a couple of new features in this area that streamlines your experience. First of all, you can see that we have a data source that's called sample data and New York taxi data. We have a couple of reference tables here that is each of them going to write to a different destination. We'll start off with the first one, which is called Snowflake, and we are going to add the destination. And this brings us to the first improvement that we brought to the table, is that when you are not finding your destination in this list here, you can click on more and it will bring you to the overall experience for the OneLake and Data Hub integration. This means that if you have recently worked with something in the OneLake or has some other recent connections that you have worked with, these will show up in your OneLake experience. Now within the Data Hub, you can see that we also have on the top here a list of destinations that you can write to. Most notably is that now SharePoint doesn't have the preview tag anymore, so we are announcing that as GA. And that Azure Data Lake Storage and Snowflake are now shown as well. For this one, we want to write to Snowflake. We click on Snowflake, my connection is set up, and now we hit next. Within our Snowflake destination, we can see that we have a couple of databases that we can write to. Just go to the New York Taxi database. This time we just take the table name we already have and hit next, and use the automatic settings for all the data that we want to. Now going forward, we also are announcing that we are supporting Lakehouse files. It's a much requested feature, and we now allow you to write CSV files into the Lakehouse itself. So you do this, you basically go add, click on Lakehouse. One difference from the previous connector for Lakehouse is that it only showed new table or existing table. We added a new one, which is called new file, allowing you to write the CSV file into the file section of the Lakehouse. In this case, we keep the same name of the table, and we decided that we needed to delimit the text, and we keep it with UTF-8 and a comma delimiter. ADLS Gen2 is also one of the most popular enterprise data lakes. Therefore, we introduced ADLS Gen2 as one of the destinations as well. And simply going through the Data Hub experience, clicking on the Azure Data Lake Storage allows you to set up this connection. And you hit next. Similar to Lakehouse files in SharePoint, you can now browse the containers that are available in your Azure Data Lake Storage. And in this case, we'll be writing it right in this My Data container using the same settings that are set by default. Now we have set up all the destinations. Now one more thing, we also improved the experience for default destinations. If you go to default destinations, you can click Add, allowing you to go through the same Data Hub experience, setting up your default destination. So in this case, if I click on the Lakehouse, select which ones I want to bind to the default destination, there's only one that doesn't have a data destination yet, so therefore this one shows up, gets bounded to the data destination as well. All right, thank you all for listening. See you next time.
We continue to bring amazing innovations to workflow orchestration and pipelines in Fabric Data Factory, and we'll continue to invest heavily in both low-code pipelines as well as code-first Apache Airflow DAGs. Now today, we're really thrilled to announce the general availability of the very popular email and Teams activities, as well as general availability for Fabric Functions activity and the Dataflow activity with native support for Dataflow parameters. Now, speaking of parameters, creating dynamic generic patterns with your pipelines and metadata-driven patterns is a super important way to use pipelines in Fabric Data Factory. So we're really excited to announce that we've also reached general availability for variable libraries and pipelines. This is where you can use those variables to easily set values across CI/CD environments and global parameters. A brand new activity we released this month is the copy job activity, enabling powerful workflow possibilities in your pipelines that allow you to orchestrate your copy jobs, the simplest and best way to move data across your Fabric workspaces. To assist our pipeline developers make your lives easier, we've added built-in debugging and testing of your pipeline expression code with a new expression evaluator. Now, anywhere that you use dynamic content in your pipelines, use the Evaluate Expression option to dynamically test your code in interactive design mode. Here you can see I've used this feature to test the results of my expression code while I'm in design mode to make sure I've set the function and values correctly. Now, when you're ready to operationalize your pipelines, we've enhanced Fabric schedules with a multi-schedule feature so that you can invoke your pipelines on multiple different schedules so that you can adjust your patterns and your schedules based on your business needs. Another really exciting new advanced scheduling feature that we're happy to show you today is a sneak peek of what are known as tumbling window triggers in Azure Data Factory. We're bringing these into Fabric Data Factory and we're calling them interval-based schedules. So in addition to the existing fixed schedules that you already can use in Fabric Data Factory, you will then be able to add interval-based or tumbling window trigger schedules, which are non-overlapping time slices, to your pipelines in Fabric Data Factory. Okay, if you prefer to write your pipelines as DAG using Python, we fully support you with the Apache Airflow jobs in Fabric. Our intuitive code editor makes it easy to add Airflow connections and Fabric providers that require tons of coding and expertise otherwise. Now with just a few clicks, you can see how I can easily add a Fabric notebook, a Spark job definition, or pipeline to my DAG. All these amazing innovations you've just seen show our commitment to making Fabric Data Factory the most powerful pipeline orchestration tool possible.
Welcome to the Evaluate Expression experience in Microsoft Fabric Pipelines. This was a huge customer ask, so I'm super excited to share it with you today. This feature helps you test and debug your pipeline expressions instantly without having to run the entire pipeline, meaning you can evaluate your expressions now without running the pipeline itself. So I'm in a brand new pipeline now, and then I'm going to go ahead and set us up for some of the exciting scenarios we can use with the Evaluate Expression experience. So I'm going to create a variable. I'm just going to call it test variable 1 and name the string hello world. And then I'm going to do some more variables just so we can play around a bit. Let's call this one testing, and then a third variable, space 1, 2, 3. So now I've got my 3 variables inside of my pipeline, and I'm going to go ahead and create an activity that will make it easy for me to see my expression. So I'm going to go ahead and try the email activity. I'm not going to configure any of my settings here. We don't really need to do that to test the Evaluate Expression Builder experience, which is the exciting part. But what we can do is go ahead and test out some of the expressions here and then go ahead and try to evaluate them. So for the first expression, I'm going to go ahead and call one of our variables. I'm going to label it just so I know what I'm doing. And then I'm going to call a variable. Let's try calling test variable 1. Something that I really love about expressions is that it will autocomplete for you. And now that we have a valid expression written here, meaning there's no red underline error messages, I can go ahead and navigate to the evaluate expression. So this is the new feature that I'm showcasing today. Go ahead and click on it, and when you click evaluate, it should showcase the preview. What's really awesome about the evaluate expression experience is that it automatically fills in the values for you based on what it knows contextually about your pipelines. So if you remember, my test var 1 variable was named hello world. Something that I do want to call out is that it does not know previous outputs from activities just because the pipeline itself hasn't run yet, so there's no way of telling the outputs, but you can edit all of these values yourself just to test your pipeline if you can basically have an educated guess on what your output of your activity would be. So I could change this to hello world 1, 2, 3, and that updates the preview content, but it doesn't actually update the test variable 1 itself. Now I'm going to do some more exciting expressions just to see what they're going to turn out to be. So I'm going to type some in and then come back when I'm done. So I've got a couple of more pretty popular instances. So a function for concat, and then also calling a system variable. So I basically called my 2 test variables here and then called the current pipeline. So let's go ahead and evaluate this expression. And as you can see, all of the items were automatically filled. I didn't have to input any of the values, which is really awesome. When I click evaluate, I should expect to see exactly what I'm seeing now, which is that the variable had the string hello world. The function combines my 2 variables, testvar2 and testvar3, so testing 1, 2, 3. And then my system variable calls the current pipeline ID, and it does show up here. So yeah, this is a super option functionality, and I'm really excited to be able to have shared this with you today. It's a really useful tool for debugging expressions before runtime. Especially it's helpful for those of you who have complex expressions involving multiple variables or functions. And thank you guys so much for watching today's demo on the Evaluate Expression experience.
We continue adding new features into our scheduling capabilities in Fabric Data Factory. Today I want to talk about creating multiple schedules for your pipelines. This is very useful so that you can have different cadences set up for your pipelines and manage those schedules separately. In addition, as we bring forward parameter support in schedules, you'll be able to set different values on different schedules. So this is very easy, and I just want to quick demonstrate how to do this. Inside of your pipeline canvas, on the home ribbon, you will see the schedule button, and I already have a schedule set for this pipeline, and it is mentioned right here in the last successful run. Now if I click add schedule, I can add more schedules. Right now I'm running every 3 hours. I'm going to set a new daily schedule. It's going to run only at this time between these dates, and click save. Currently I can have up to 20 schedules per pipeline, adding much more flexibility to your orchestration capabilities in Fabric Data Factory.
Get data allows you to easily ingest various sources and efficiently get your data. Let's launch Copilot within Get Data Experience. With a new addition on recent data sources, I can easily select an earlier used table and further use Copilot. Watch as I type a natural language prompt, remove duplicate rows, only keep a date up to 2005, and rename a column. Copilot instantly creates a transformation and shoots the preview data. It's like having an AI assistant right in your workflow. Now, what if I want to transform data using AI prompts? We're soon introducing AI prompts for transforming data with AI. As I describe the transformation I want, AI generates the logic for me. No manual coding required. This is a game changer and improves productivity. And because the logic is generated in real time, you can experiment, iterate, and see results instantly, empowering both technical and business users to get more value from their data. Now, let's see how we are enabling more AI capabilities in pipeline to boost your productivity. Writing expressions in pipeline can be challenging. We're soon introducing an expression copilot capability that will simplify the process of writing complex expressions. In the pipeline expression builder, I ask the copilot to create dynamic folder names starting with console cells and appending with the current date. Immediately, the expression is generated, and we can either choose to accept or discard this generated expression. The Error Insights Copilot capability will empower users to better understand all the errors in pipeline. It provides useful insights categorizing issues, root cause analysis, and recommendations. With the new summarized insights, it provides more efficient troubleshooting experience in Data Factory. Thank you for watching this demo.
With Microsoft Fabric, we're not just talking about connecting data. We're showing you how you can mirror external data sources like Oracle and Google BigQuery directly into OneLake. This is all available now with Google BigQuery and Oracle in public preview. Let's see this in action starting with Google BigQuery. Here I'm logged into the Google Cloud Platform where you can see that I'm in the Google BigQuery window. We have 3 tables here that we'll be bringing in, and here is a preview of the rows here. Now, let's explore how we can mirror this external GCP data into Fabric. In Fabric, I'll create a new mirrored item. Here, I can see all my data sources. You can also see our newer sources in public preview. Let's choose GBQ and input all the necessary credentials. Proceeding to the next screen, we'll select the same tables we saw previously and skipping ahead to start the replication process. I have given it a minute, and now we can see all the rows are replicated over into Fabric. Now, let's mirror an Oracle Exadata instance, which is also in public preview today. I'll go back to the creation screen, select Oracle, and then input my Exadata connection credentials. I'll go and select a few tables, and skipping ahead, I can see that my Oracle tables have been replicated over. Let's head back to my SQL Analytics endpoint, and now I can see my mirrored GBQ data, my mirrored Snowflake data, and now my mirrored Oracle data all in one warehouse. Fabric unifies data from BigQuery, Snowflake, Oracle, and more, so you can run cross-cloud queries, join tables from different sources, and build semantic models that span your entire data estate. Here I have ran a cross-cloud query that combines my orders data from GBQ and my Oracle data. Now, what if I could just chat with my data to get instant answers? Now you can. Data Agent now supports mirror databases, available in public preview starting today. Getting started is simple. Create a new data agent or open an existing one. Then start adding your mirror databases. Here are all the ones I've recently created mirroring data from Oracle, GBQ, and Snowflake. Once connected, I just select the tables I want and start asking questions. For example, I can ask, can you group the sentiment for each review based on the rating and comments column and summarize historical trends year by year? The data agent not only answers the question, but it also shows me the exact SQL query it ran. Now let's try another one. Which category of product reviews receives the most negative feedback? In just a few seconds, the agent responds. The health category stands out with the most negative reviews, again with the SQL query included. With Fabric, you can mirror all your cross-cloud data into one lake and instantly use Data Agent to answer any questions, get insights, and act on your data in one unified experience.
Today, I'm excited to show you how Data Factory empowers enterprise-grade orchestration and multi-cloud data distribution, all built on the Medallion architecture. Let me show you how CopyJob makes it all possible. Let's start at the bronze layer by ingesting raw files from AWS S3. Notice the richness of connectors. Whether you're pulling data from on-premises sources, cloud databases, or even through secure Vienna integration, Data Factory makes it seamless. I'll select AWS S3 and use my on-prem gateway to connect to AWS S3 behind a firewall. With just a few clicks, I can move files directly into OneLake as a one-time load. Next, I'll use CopyJob to ingest reference tables from Azure SQL Database into Fabric. From the screen, I'm using a service principal stored in Azure Key Vault to authenticate my SQL database so that I do not need to expose my secrets anywhere. After connecting to my Fabric Lakehouse as the destination, I can optionally configure table mapping, column mapping, and the update method. Here, I'll choose append so that I will not miss any changed data on destination. Finally, I'll select incremental copy mode, which ensures that after the initial full copy, only the changes are copied. As you can see, my reference tables from the SQL database have successfully landed in OneLake, and subsequent runs will just bring in the incremental changes. Now, after I finish my data analytics work in Fabric, I will want to distribute the results of my silver and gold layers to my clients across multi-cloud destinations as well. After I select my source table from Fabric Lakehouse and CopyJob, I will choose Snowflake as the destination to copy data to. On this screen, I can securely connect to Snowflake in private network through a VNet gateway. On this screen, you can see CopyJob will automatically capture inserts, updates, and deletes from my Lakehouse table using Change Data Feed, and replicate them to Snowflake on a configurable schedule. Similarly, the first run performs a full copy to land data in Snowflake successfully. Next, I will make some changes in the Fabric Lakehouse table using a notebook, for example, updating some rows. When I run the CopyJob again, these changes are automatically captured and replicated to Snowflake, greatly improving efficiency while reducing the load on the source system. With CopyJob, you're never locked into a single cloud. Whether it's Azure, AWS, or Snowflake, you can easily build your Medallion architecture and distribute your data to wherever your business needs it. Thank you for watching this demo.
To enable OAP on this workspace, I will navigate to the workspace settings. Then I will select Outbound Networking. Here, there's an option to block outbound public access. Now I will see all the options on how to enable and disable access to different connections. Additionally, I can specify rules for many specific connection kinds like SharePoint, SQL Server, Databricks, and more. This allows me to provide an allow list of data source endpoints that are permitted from this workspace. I'll add a connection rule to allow a specific SQL Server connection. With the rule and exception in place, I'll try a connection that is not an endpoint exception within my existing pipeline. And as you can see, the connection fails. Now if I try a connection that is an endpoint exception, the connection succeeds, confirming that OAP now only allows the explicitly permitted endpoint. The outbound access protection rules apply to Dataflows Gen2 and CopyJobs as well. With outbound access protection in Microsoft Fabric, you gain control over data connectivity and can set safeguards to help minimize risk of data exfiltration.
Thank you so much for watching our Data Factory demos this FabCon season. We hope to see you next time.
A huge thanks to the Data Factory team for putting together these awesome demos and getting together these awesome features for FabCon. To see a full list of the features, check out the Fabric monthly update, which we'll link in the description, and keep an eye out for new blogs coming out this week and next week.
Before we wrap up, we'd love to hear from you, so please share your feedback or let us know any other topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes in the comments below. If you're interested in joining in as a guest, please reach out to either Connie or me. Our contacts will be linked in the description. And don't forget to follow the Data Factory team on social media so you never miss an update on new features and more exciting news. See y'all next time for the next episode.